Yeah, I hope that you hearing me. This is the future, all about cybersecurity. Talking about the hackers, I'm just trying to warn you. From the one and only legend, the Cyber Informer. Hey, yeah, this is the Cyber Reformer. This is the Cyber Reformer. Let's go.
It's time for the Cybersecurity Business Connect and Protect Central Coast Q&A video. I am Michael Trimblett, the Cyber Informer, and today we'll be following up on the video, What Password Should I Use?, with this video on how hackers guess your password. In this two-part series, we will show you the tools hackers use, and I'll demonstrate how easy it is to hack your weak password. Let's go. The question for this Q&A episode is, how do hackers guess a password? There are two ways: an online attack and an offline attack. I will show you the offline attack in this video and we'll do the online attack in the next video. In order to talk hacking, we need to understand some concepts behind hacking passwords. We'll talk about how passwords are stored on servers and we'll use a number of tools in order to achieve our goal. These are all basic concepts and tools to hackers, but it can get pretty heavy for the first timer. I'll try to keep this as basic as possible so we can get to the meat of the hack, but this still warrants 4 propeller hats. There are two major categories of password attacks. Online password attacks refer to attempting to log onto a service across the internet or network. Offline password attacks require a password hash, which has to be decrypted. Hashes are a one-way cryptographic function. Unlike conventional encryption, where you encrypt data with the intention of decrypting it, hashes are specifically designed so you cannot determine what the original text was by looking at the output. A single bit change will change the entire output. This technology is very handy for purposes of password encryption. You don't want an easy way for someone to reverse the hash for the exact reason that if it is exfiltrated from a server, you want it to be safe from prying eyes. This is also a convenient way to pass your password from your computer to a server without someone who might be watching the traffic on the connection being able to see your password in plain text. When you enter your password, if authentication is done correctly, the password will be hashed on your computer and the hash sent to the server. The server then compares the hash to its saved hash. If it matches, then you're allowed in. If it doesn't match, you'll be denied access. All usernames and passwords are stored in databases. There are two storage methods for passwords in databases. One, plain text. No encryption. If your password is password, then that's the way the database will store it. The second is hashed. This is the most secure, and there are many types of hashing algorithms. Some are better than others. This is the output of a program called Hashcat. These are all the hashes that it recognizes. As you can see, there are a lot. 323 different hashing algorithms, to be exact. Hashcat is freely downloadable from hashcat.net. This is a Hashcat website. You can easily download a version of it for your computer. Windows, Mac, Linux, it's all there. A lot of these hacking tools are downloadable for free. It's just knowing the theory behind the tools and how they work. So let's see how it actually works. These are the hashes of the password based on different hashing algorithms. As you can see, they look very different. So how can you identify what hash it is if you don't already know what it is? There's a tool for that. In Kali Linux, you can enter the command hash identifier. Let's have a look and we'll run through these hashes in hash identifier. Okay, we'll run hash identifier. We'll put in the first hash. We can see that it says possible hashes MD5. Well, that's precisely what that one is. It's an MD5 hash. Let's try the second one. This one is a domain cached credential. We can see it thinks that it's either going to be an MD5 or domain cached credential. This is useful because if you have exfiltrated this information from a domain, then you know that it's a domain cached credential. If you've pulled it from an online source, then perhaps it might be MD5. Let's have a look at the SHA hash. Again, it's saying SHA1, which is exactly what it was, or it could be a MySQL, which also uses SHA1. Perfect. So we're identifying what these hashes are. The last one we'll try is bcrypt. This hash cannot be identified. So how can we actually identify this hash? Well, why don't we just go to Google and see whether we can find it there. Okay, if you remember the bcrypt hash, it started with $2. So let's have a look at this. Straight away, it brings up bcrypt. Well, that's going to be the algorithm that we need to use to try and hack this hash. So let's have a look at a demonstration. Let's try and brute force this hash. Now, if you remember, brute force is trying every single combination. So let's try this against the different types of hashes that we have. So MD5, NTLM, SHA1, and bcrypt. So now we'll put the command into Hashcat. There's no graphical interface for it, so we will just use the command prompt. So what we'll do is put in the Hashcat command, hashcat-m0. The M0 means it's going to be using MD5 hash. We've put the MD5 hash in afterwards, and we've said A-3, which indicates to it that we're going to be doing a brute force attack. So let's hit enter on this, and let's see how long it takes to work out the password. We can see the screens skipping through. Okay, great. Look at that. It's now finished. We can see it successfully decrypted the hash. We can see the password is password. It took a little under 20 seconds. Let's clear the screen. And we'll put in the command to look for the NTLM hash, which is -1000, the hash, and then A-3, which indicates brute force. Okay, so it starts running through, very similar to what we saw with the MD5 hash. This is trying every single combination, starting with one character, all the way up until it actually finds the password, which in this case is 8 characters. And there we go, it's cracked. Okay, it found the password as expected, and this took 17 seconds to complete. Clear the screen, and then we'll try this one, which is the SHA hash. Again, M100 is for SHA1, we have the hash, and then A3, which is brute force. Okay, so it starts running through, guessing every single combination from one character all the way up to 8 until it finds the word password. Now, what this is doing, it's going to take a little bit more time because SHA1 takes a little bit more processing power to compute the hashes. So it has to compute the hash and then compare it against the original hash that we entered in to the original command when we started this process. So it should be just about done. And there we are. The password has been cracked right there. So we can see the hash and the password. If we look down here, it took, 33 seconds for it to crack that password. We'll clear the screen. Now we will attempt the bcrypt hashed password. Now this is all starting up. It's going through similar screens to what we saw before, but spoiler alert, this takes well over 15 minutes for it to crack. So what we'll do is actually just quit this, and we're going to try something else. So this offline password attack is called a dictionary attack. We will use the bcrypt password hash, which we saw in the previous slides, and we will run it through the Hashcat password cracking tool using a dictionary attack. We cancelled bcrypt because it was taking too long. Let's see how long it will take now. Okay, we'll put the command in. So we can see there we're running Hashcat M3200, which tells us that we're decrypting bcrypt. There's the bcrypt hash. And now what we're doing is actually feeding it a word list. And this one's called rocku.txt. And the -o at the end means optimize. So let's hit enter. Look at that. We can see that the hash has now been cracked with the password. And it took about 7 seconds. So it took about 7 seconds for it to crack. What this means is that dictionary attacks are far more efficient than brute force attacks. Going back to the what password should I use Q&A video, this shows that if your password is random and not in the dictionary or a leaked password list, then your password will likely be infeasible to guess if it has been hashed with a slow algorithm such as bcrypt. If it has been hashed with a fast hashing algorithm, then it will only be a matter of time. How much time will depend on the length and complexity of your password. In this demonstration, we ran at a speed of about 2 billion guesses per second with MD5. If you remember from the what password should I use Q&A video, a 16-character random password running at 100 billion guesses per second would take an average of 70.5 billion centuries. To put that in context, my computer was running at about 2 billion guesses per second. So if you're going to be cracking a 16-character random password from my computer, you would need to multiply that estimate by about 50. Now what about complex 8-character passwords? We used a simple password, which was password. What about a complex password? I've hashed a complex 8-character password as an experiment to see how long it would take to brute force a password. So let's have a look in Hashcat. We'll drop in the Hashcat command. Because this is a more complex password, it's going to take longer for it to guess. What we'll do is flash forward to the end of the scan and we'll see how long it has taken to guess the password. Okay, it's found the password. We can see there, it's found the one that we were looking for, and it took just under 23 minutes to run. Now, as this is a huge address space for it to be looking for, it can take hours to find a password, but this one we managed to find in 23 minutes, and results will vary depending on different password sizes, different password complexities, and also the program itself, because it looks for different password combinations in different orders each time. So this time it took 23 minutes. If we tried it again, maybe it will take longer, maybe it will take shorter. The idea is that if you have 8-character passwords and they're complex, they'll take longer than a non-complex password. Let's now have a look at a dark web scan. This is an example of a dark web scan. Along with plain text passwords, we had passwords that are hashed. You can see there is an email address associated with the password, the hashed password, a published date, and where the password was leaked from. Starting from the top, LinkedIn's hashing algorithm, when you drop that into hash identifier, it identifies it as SHA-1. When we guess the SHA-1 password hash, in the example before, we achieved 5.5 billion guesses per second. If you have a weak or short password, this will be guessed rather quickly. We can also see at the bottom, Storybird.com. This uses a slightly different variant of the SHA-1 algorithm. This will slow the guessing rate down, so it's not going to be as fast as plain SHA-1, but it's still not great. Then we see the 2 in the middle. By now you should be able to identify that hash. Yep, it's bcrypt. Because this is a computationally expensive algorithm, in other words, slow to generate, a strong and long password will be computationally infeasible to brute force. But as we saw, if it was a simple password, it will likely be guessed quickly. Before we move on to online attacks, what did we learn about offline attacks? Now we know how passwords are stored. They're in plain text or they're hashed. Hashing algorithms matter. The speed of guessing password combinations is directly related to the hashing algorithm used by the web service you sign up for. Sadly, there's no standard and no way to know how your passwords are being stored until they are breached and leaked online. We found no matter how complex an 8-character password is, if you have the hash, it will be guessed within a maximum of a few hours. Dark web scans can give you hashed passwords or plain text. This all depends on where the data was breached from. Thank you for joining me for this Q&A session on how to guess a password using an offline attack. Understanding password strengths are very important to securing yourself. It's all well and good to talk about the theory, but it's something else to see it in action. Don't forget, you can contact me via email, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Until next time, stay safe online.
Oh yeah, this is the Cyber Informer. Hackers, you going down like, oh yeah, this is the Cyber Informer. Hackers, you going down, yeah.